The Dershow.
I'm hoping that Israel is permitted to make a deal where if they release these prisoners, they at least can exile them, deport them. President Trump loves deportation. So do I. If you're deporting or exiling murderers, rapists, baby killers. And so maybe the deal would include, yes, we'll free 1,000 Hamas terrorists, but we're not freeing them to the Gaza Strip or the West Bank. We're going to send them to countries that will accept them. There are many who would. Ireland, for example. Ireland loves Hamas. Look at what happened recently at a songfest in England where Irish bands and Irish singers, and Ireland has the worst history of anti-Semitism of any country in Europe, even during the Second World War. Of course, they claim they did it because the Germans were fighting the English, and the English were colonializing the Irish, all of which is true, and I don't support the British. But to not support the British fighting Nazism, there's been a long history. Sure, the mayor of Dublin was Jewish. That's all true. And there are a lot of people in Ireland who are not at all anti-Semitic, but the Irish government has been the most virulently anti-Israel. And it's not surprising, therefore, that Irish rock groups were singing, kill the IDF, death to the IDF. They were singing this at a music festival just like the festival in which 1,200 Israelis were murdered by Hamas. You get these thugs singing death to the IDF. It's being investigated now as a criminal charge by Great Britain because the festival, although it contained a lot of Irish singers, actually took place in England, which has criminal jurisdiction. And so what we're seeing is obviously investigations to see, remember, England doesn't have a First Amendment, and it's a crime in England to incite violence or do other things that may have crossed the line at this horrible festival, which was sponsored by the BBC, another group that has a terrible history when it comes to Jews and Israel and Zionism. So, this is going to be a tough Monday. I will hopefully speak to the prime minister at some point, probably not before, but I'm sure at some point afterward. And I don't think I'll find out everything that went on, but I'll probably learn a little bit more than is in the public media. Again, friendly with Ron Dermer, who's the chief security person. Ron and I have been friends for 25 years. Bibi and I have been friends for 50 years. And so I don't claim objectivity on these issues, though I think an objective analysis supports my views. And so we'll wait and see what happens on Monday. But I would like to see Israel finish the job when it comes to Iran. I'd like to see them finish the job when it comes to Hamas. I think that would be good not only for Israel and the Jewish people, I think it would be good for America and for world peace. I think having Gaza without Hamas in charge would promote a peace. And I think having in Iran without the mullahs in charge would promote peace. And I think most countries in the Middle East would tell you quietly, privately, not publicly, they hope Hamas is destroyed, and they hope that the current regime in Iran is destroyed. But you're not going to hear them say that. They're going to condemn Israel and condemn and commend Donald Trump. Well, they won't ever commend Donald Trump, but they'll say that the ceasefires that he imposed in Iran and on the Gaza Strip are desirable. But remember, too, what happened on October 6th, the day before October 7th, there was a ceasefire. Israel complied with the ceasefire. And it was during the ceasefire that these 1,200 people were murdered and 250 taken captive. It was during a ceasefire that Gilad Shalit was taken prisoner and kept and traded for almost 1,000 people, including Sinwar, who then went on and killed the 1,200 people. So put yourself in the position of the prime minister of Israel. You have the left wing there who is afflicted with BDS, that is Bibi derangement syndrome, much the way the left in America, much of them are afflicted with Trump derangement syndrome. Bibi can do nothing right, and the left can do nothing wrong. So we're getting a lot of that. But neutral, objective assessments would would support the view that the world would be better off if we didn't have the mullahs in charge of Iran, and we didn't have the Hamas in charge of Gaza. I don't think Hamas will ever really be in charge of Gaza again, but it will continue to have influence. And again, to say what I said a minute ago, if there were elections either on the West Bank or in the Gaza or in the Palestinian diaspora, including Columbia University, Hamas would win. These murderous baby killers, these rapists, these stranglers, these beheaders would win. And probably the man who will be the next mayor of New York would support them and would vote for him. They have, he is, after all, called for globalize the Intifada. What does that mean? It means bring October 7th to New York and to Brooklyn, and you get 20 to 25% of Jewish voters in the Democratic Party, idiots as they are, voting for this anti-Semite. So, look, we live in a complicated world. This is a complicated time. I try very hard to not simplify, because I never want to simplify. I want to complexify complex issues and lay them out fairly and neutrally. All I have a call for is a single standard. Criticize Israel in the same way you'd criticize any other country in the world, criticize Jews in the same way you'd criticize any other religious or ethnic group. Just don't apply a negative double standard. That's anti-Semitism.